Wouldn't it be nice to bake an artisan bread that rises without the help of any commercial yeast? A bread that has its distinct flavor, aroma, and texture, all thanks to a living culture that can grow in your own kitchen? Whether someone is a passionate baker or a bread connoisseur, understanding sourdough can provide insight into the ancient traditions of past generations. Through careful research about studies done on types of sourdough starters and bread, I have learned how fermentation and microbial balance extends the life of a sourdough starter. A homemade sourdough starter is a microbiota that ferments dough naturally. And with proper environment, feeding, and care, it can serve as a baking companion for decades. In this speech, I will inform you what sourdough is, how to feed and properly maintain it, and what baked goods can be made from the starter or discard. Now that we have an idea what this speech is about, let's get to the first point we need to cover. First, let me tell you about the traditional sourdough starter. Number one, authors of Ecological Parameters Influencing Microbial Diversity and Stability of Traditional Sourdough mention that sourdough is a blend of flour, mainly wheat or rye, and water fermented with lactic acid bacteria and yeast, which are responsible for rising a dough, while simultaneously giving the bread its acidic flavor. Number two, according to the authors of The Sourdough Bread Provide Clinically Relevant Health Benefits, traditional sourdough is a sole leavening agent in households and is reverted to its previous state like the other types of sourdough starters by refreshing it with new food for bacteria and yeast. This requires more than 6 hours of fermentation. This usually contains microbes with higher metabolic activity in the bread dough when compared to other types of sourdough. Beneficial interactions are happening in a traditional sourdough starter between the wild yeast and bacteria. They kind of engage in cross feeding where the metabolic byproducts of one organism becomes food for another. Number three, according to the authors of Effects of Flour Type and Incubation Temperature of Sourdough on the Technological and Sensory Properties of Bread, its use aims to improve the properties of food, increasing its quality, mainly the texture, flavor, and shelf life, and decelerating its aging process. After learning about the definition of a traditional starter, we will discuss its care and maintenance. These are the steps in taking care of a sourdough starter. Number one, the inoculum needs to be backslopped or refreshed as needed. This process is a propagation technique that ensures culture remains alive with fresh water and flowers as its food. It also helps to maintain the flavor and leavening power by balancing the presence of lactic acid bacteria and wild yeast in the starter. When storing it at a room temperature and using it often, daily feeding is required. On the other hand, weekly refreshment is enough when kept inside a refrigerator. 2. A wide-mouthed mason jar is used when feeding the sourdough starter for easy transfer and cleanup. Use the lid that came with the jar, not closing it tightly to allow the culture to breathe. Filtered or non-chlorine water is best, along with rye, bread, or all-purpose flour. 3. Discard most of the starter, leaving only what's needed for a commonly used ratio of 1:1:1, starter to flour to water. It is a good habit to stir the mixture thoroughly to eliminate dry lumps of flour. The starter is kept at an ideal 70 to 80 degree Fahrenheit around the house for optimal survival. The smell of the starter changes from sweet and grassy to sour and vinegary and as strong as the fingernail polish when it has gone too long without refreshment. The consistency progresses from a shaggy dough to a loose starter as it ferments. Bubbling indicates pockets of air getting trapped as a byproduct of fermentation. After learning about how to care for a traditional sourdough starter, let's find out what can be produced from the starter. This is the exciting part. Some examples of baked goods are as follows. Number one, according to the author of Sourdough to Savor, Jenny Underwood, sourdough starter is a versatile item to keep at home. It is an alternative ingredient for making artisan-style breads, as well as pancakes, muffins, and pizzas. Number two, examples of higher rising breads requiring sourdough starter are crescent rolls, no knead artisan bread, and sourdough focaccia. Number three, aside from the kinds of breads mentioned above, there are good things that can come from having a sourdough starter at home by using its discard. The discard doesn't necessarily mean something to be thrown away. As its name suggests, discard can be used to make certain low-rising breads such as biscuits, pancakes, and pizza. To recap, today we have explored what a traditional sourdough starter is, how to keep it strong and active, and what can be made using a sourdough starter. Traditional sourdough starter is more than just a baking ingredient. It's a living culture that, when cared for appropriately, can provide a powerful impact by helping preserve traditions and serve as a wonderful substitute for commercially manufactured yeast. Hopefully, the next time a bread is served on the table, whether it's a homemade sourdough bread or store-bought, it will be nice to remember that even when the time comes that yeast or commercially made leavening agents won't be available in the market, sourdough starter is just a three-ingredient mixture away.